We live in an age obsessed with the new. New ideas, new technology, new beginnings. We are taught, almost instinctively, to replace rather than repair, to upgrade rather than preserve, to move on rather than look back. And yet, despite all this, old things still surround us, quietly, stubbornly, patiently refusing to disappear. Old things are not useless. They are witnesses. An old object carries more than wear, it carries memory. A cracked table has felt the weight of countless meals and conversations. A faded book has been opened by hands long gone, its margins marked by thoughts that once mattered deeply to someone. A worn tool tells a story of work done slowly, carefully, and repeatedly. These things are not efficient by modern standards, but they are honest. Old things remind us that durability was once a virtue. They were built to last, not to impress for a season. They were made with the expectation of responsibility, that someone would maintain them, pass them on, and understand their value. In this way, old things demanded a relationship. You had to learn them, care for them, and respect their limits. They did not promise convenience, they offered reliability. There is humility in using something old. Old things do not center us. They remind us that we are temporary. That we are only one chapter in a longer story. When we sit in an old building or walk a path worn smooth by centuries of footsteps, we feel the presence of lives that came before us, not loudly but unmistakably. The past does not shout. It whispers. And those whispers matter. Because old things teach patience in a world of speed. They slow us down. They require adjustment, attention, sometimes even forgiveness. They break, but they can be repaired. And in their imperfections, they reflect something deeply human. That value does not disappear simply because something is flawed or aged. Old things also carry lessons we forget too easily. They remind us that progress is not always improvement. That faster is not always better. That replacing something can be easier than understanding it, but rarely more meaningful. When we discard old things without thought, we also discard the skills, knowledge, and care that went into making them. To preserve old things is not to reject change. It is to choose continuity over amnesia. It is to say that history deserves space in the present, that memory has weight, that not everything valuable needs to be reinvented. Old things anchor us. They provide contrast. They give depth to a world that too often feels disposable. In the end, old things endure not because they are perfect, but because they are human. They age as we do. They bear marks of use, survival, and time. And when we choose to keep them, when we repair rather than replace, remember rather than erase, we are making a quiet declaration. That meaning is not found only in what is new, but in what has lasted long enough to matter. And there is another truth about old things that we rarely say out loud. They ask something of us. Old things are not passive. They demand care, attention, and responsibility. An old house must be maintained. An old tradition must be understood. An old relationship with land, craft, or knowledge must be renewed again and again, or it will fade. Old things do not survive on admiration alone, they survive on commitment. This is why they make us uncomfortable. In a culture trained for convenience, old things resist shortcuts. They remind us that some values cannot be outsourced, automated, or instantly replaced. You cannot rush mastery of an old skill. You cannot skim an old text and expect it to give up its meaning. You cannot inherit something old without also inheriting the duty to carry it forward. And yet, that duty is also a gift. Because old things connect us across time in a way nothing new ever can. They collapse distance. When you hold something made generations ago, you are touching the result of choices, patience, and labor you did not witness, but benefit from. That connection creates gratitude. And gratitude, unlike novelty, deepens rather than fades. Old things also teach restraint. They remind us that excess is not the same as abundance. That having more does not always mean living better. In older ways of living, limits were understood not as oppression, but as structure, boundaries that made life sustainable. Scarcity sharpened care. Repair was normal. Waste was shameful. These were not aesthetic choices, they were moral ones. We lost some of that wisdom when we learned how easy replacement could be. And yet, old things endure even in the margins of modern life. In restored workshops. In handwritten letters kept long after their words are memorized. In family recipes that refuse to be optimized. In tools that still work after decades because someone chose to sharpen rather than discard them. These acts are quiet rebellions against disposability. Old things also remind us that not everything must be justified by usefulness. Some are kept simply because they are beautiful, or meaningful, or because letting go would feel like erasing something fragile and irreplaceable. An old photograph has no function, but it holds a life.